Hey,
How you doing? You okay?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Good. Better for seeing you. Better for seeing you. I
Hey,
have
you're
to
looking
say,
very smart today. I like your shirt.
well, I knew that I was talking to royalty, so yeah.
What, have you got a call after this?
You know it. You know it. Google has told me to warn you that we are recording. You need to be very aware of it. Yeah.
Right. Keep my racist tendencies to myself.
Yeah, if you could.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I'll edit it out anyway.
Just bleep the slurs. Like that's what I normally do. So how's things anyway? You're looking very smart. Yeah, pretty green as well. That's a good brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good brand. They're still going, right? Or are they done? They are still going.
They are still going. I don't know if the OG LG is still in any way connected to it. But what I love about them is like this top, for instance. I can't remember how much it was, right? But let's say, for argument's sake, it was £100, right? Fine. But then all you do is you just wait to the January sale, and then they're like, yeah, 20 quid. You're like, I'll take that all day.
That's it. I've got a couple of shirts. Actually, I've got a bit of trivia for you. So when it first came out, it had a flagship store on Carnaby Street. I don't know if it's still there, but it certainly was there. But when that came out, a good friend of mine called Phil Sims, who runs a design company called Neighbour, he did the logo that's on your shirt, the pretty green logo. Yeah, that's his business did that. They did all the initial launch for it all.
Wow.
So, did I get invited to the parties? No. They forgot about me. I'm just in this little room. They're all out there hobnobbing with the stars.
Yeah.
Didn't think about little Jay here. Never gets out.
It's shocking, isn't it? That's shocking, really. Well, what I do love, though, is we've been talking for 2 minutes and we've just name dropped quite a very cool designer there. So, yeah.
Shout out to Phil. Yeah. He's done some pretty cool stuff over the years, actually, like photo shoots with Kylie Minogue in the 90s and 2000s, stuff like that. So, yeah, he's been in that sort of music area of design for a long time, So good times.
Oh, cool. So how are you, dude? How are you? What's shaking?
Yeah, very well. What is shaking? I know we were meant to do this last week, and then I think maybe we planned to do it like a year ago. I don't know what's going on with time at the moment, Nick. I know people said time speeds up as you get older, right? Because you've obviously got a lot more to do. There's less time in the day to fit it all in. I can't believe it's 2026. It's nearly February already. Like last year was just a blink and you'll miss it year. Like I had so much to do. I had a massive long list to do, and all that happened was it got longer. I just didn't get anything off it. And I just had all this stuff going on, and it just seems to be getting quicker and quicker. I mean, are you finding that as well? I mean, just on all levels,
Yes, exactly the same. I felt like January last year went on for at least half a decade. At least.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, thank Christ, it's like 1st of February, great stuff.
Yeah.
I turned around and it's like, hey, happy new year, 2026 is here. It's like, can you just tell me what happened in 2025?
Summer went so fast. Yeah, I just don't, I think, and I didn't really feel like I was doing, actually I was doing more than usual. So all my free time, and I don't really ever sort of have free time, like sit around watching TV. I'm not that guy, right? I'm the guy that, like, if there's a moment to sit around watching TV, I'll just fill it with another job that I need to do or something, I just like to keep things like if we're taking it easy, or if we're going away for a weekend or whatever, I'll always take my sketch pads. I've always got a load of things to occupy me, right? And so I think last year I just doubled down on that, and it just zapped my whole understanding of what a 24-hour timeline is like. It just seemed to just sort of steal it away. And I think the reason being is, like, obviously work's been, I know you've been busy as well. Work's been particularly busy. Last year was like just chaos. There was just loads of stuff going on. It was great. It's exactly how I like it. Lots of plates spinning, new clients, old clients popping up, and just all this, and overlapping the way it's meant to overlap, and nothing too crazy getting out of hand. So that was all good. But then I was also, by night, I was like dressing as a vigilante and essentially just like doing a lot of art and a lot of painting and a lot of like comic book stuff and whatever. And I think I ended up splitting myself into two people. That's what happened. So so I guess that's where all the time goes. But yeah. So how about you? So I know you've been quite busy. So you know, how's the company going?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Touch wood. Good so far. Yeah, no, I do you know what? It's funny. I was similar. Like, I think last year I had quite a lot of work, and a lot of it was existing, you know, clients, which I love going back to.
Were you traveling with that quite a lot?
Not so much. I was up in London a fair bit, which was fine, because one of the clients is actually in Farringdon. And it worked out that it was quicker and easier all round if I could get the train, and like, you know, and I don't care if people think I'm a geek or a nerd about this, but the Elizabeth line, I mean, there's not many things.
It's a game changer. Yeah,
100%. It's like
very good.
From Paddington to my client's office in Farringdon, it's something ridiculous, like 12 minutes door to door. Right?
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it? Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if I can work out getting all my kit down to something reasonable on the train, then I can just do that. I don't have to drive. And suddenly I was getting all this time back that I was like, okay, I could edit, I can do, you know, whatever I need to while I'm sat there for 2 hours, a hostage to, you know, GWR.
I love a train journey. Okay, right. So like wherever we go, I'm always driving. We've always got stuff in the, you know, we're going to visit family and friends, whatever distance. So we're always in the car. But if I'm ever going like to any client thing, or like there's somewhere in the UK that I have to be, the further away the better. I suddenly feel like, I've got like a 4-hour train journey. Imagine what you can get done when you're right. You're sat in a seat. You're limited by the things that you can actually do. Like I like read a book. Right? I know that's wild. Like it's a wild concept, but like just the idea. But like you said, like it's something that I miss now, because once upon a time I used to live in South London and I worked in Chislehurst in Kent. So I was always going out of London when everyone else was coming in. But the journey was probably about an hour. But that was an essential hour. I would do all my bills and like sort my life out, you know, do the admin. And now what happens, because my commute is essentially the length of my hallway, none of that gets done. It just stacks up and stacks up, because there's not a dedicated moment where the universe has said, you can do this at this point in the day and only this, right? So, well, that's nice. So you managed to do some editing on the train as well, with no one looking over your shoulder.
Well, I mean, if they did, they weren't going to see anything, you know, that might be interesting to them. It was interesting to me. But yeah, it was a little bit of a, you know, I did do a check, you know, to see who was around, and if there
make sure no one's looking at your World of Warcraft account while you're playing.
Or, you know, some sort of, you know, guy in like a hat and the you know, the round glasses with a rain, you know, trench coat.
Exactly.
You know, saying to the guy next to him, have you seen the Silver Fox in spring? You know, if it was
exactly
level of espionage, I'd just, you know, read the paper or something. But
no, there's a lot of espionage happen in Wales.
well, you'd be surprised on the Cardiff to London train.
We meet on a Thursday night at a bar in town.
It's like a Le Carré move, you know, book, honestly. But no, something you said earlier about, you know, splitting yourself between, you know, like the day job. We'll call it the day job.
Yeah.
Stuff. And I know that you love illustrating and you love, you know, drawing and all that sort of stuff. It was really cool to see what you were doing last year. And what I love particularly is, so something that I've promised myself for 2026 is I'm going to start shooting more film photography. So that, you know, that's something just to get out of my head and go out. But obviously, you know, it's lovely to shoot film photography and you get films and stuff, but, you know, what do you do with it in the end? And what I love about what you did last year was, look what...
Hey, cue the prop. Oh, you got the one I sent you. Yeah.
It had nothing in it. I was hoping to see some of the
just
drawings.
Printed it off the internet. Yeah, well, that's an interesting.
The cover, so I could do that again.
I know I said to you we need to write like 5 things we liked doing last year and 5 things that were, you know, that were like whatever. I haven't really got a list of 10 things. I've sort of a lot of the things I wrote down. I kind of thought, to go on both lists.
Yeah.
And that project that you've got there, I think that goes on both lists because I absolutely love doing that project. And I worked with a lot of people to bring this anthology of like stories and stuff together. But then it was an awful lot of work. Like, it made me realize that, like, I mean, you know, and not to say that it was unachievable, but it did take up a lot of time. And I found like it kind of reinforces why I like working by myself, right? Because and some things you can't achieve alone. That book, I couldn't achieve it on my own. So like as a group, a collective of people writing and drawing and whatever, and it was great. And they're wonderful people and a really nice group of creatives. But it did, you know, and I was like rallying everyone and working as like the team leader of stuff. That's a whole job in itself, just dedicating your time to working out, you know, print deadlines. When it's just me, I just do it instinctively now. I don't really think about it. When I'm managing other people or like, you know, trying to get people to hit deadlines and stuff, man, that's a hard job, you know. And hats off to. And I'm glad I did it, and it was great. And I'm sure I'll do it many more times to come. But it definitely goes on both lists because maybe that's where a lot of the time went. Is like a lot of that kind of, and it wasn't just that project. There's other similar projects going along at the same time that I was all sort of self-initiating. That I think took a lot more planning than I'd actually anticipated. I just thought, yeah, we'll wing it. It will be fine. But actually, you can't do stuff like that. And with that one, we ended up getting it in like a whole load of bookstores and things as well. And that in itself comes with a whole load of responsibility. Like, because we got it in with Waterstones, which is amazing. But the paperwork that went into like going through the process of applying as a publisher and doing all this sort of stuff was just like, it was like, I mean, if you got one question wrong, it would just be kicked back. So like you could, or if there was even a question of like, what's this, you know, it would just be, so it was constant cycle of trying to get in with them. It did work out in the end, but it was a lot of work. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's all set up now and it's a thing. We're doing a second one this year because obviously I'm just a glutton for punishment. So we are doing it. And also lots of new creatives that saw the first book wanted to get involved. So that's turning into a thing as well. So
Amazing.
Yeah, so there's this whole other, like I said, this kind of like vigilante nightlife thing that I've got going on, which has been great.
Well, if it helps at all, I actually got this through Waterstones. I appreciate
very good. Yeah,
other booksellers are available, and you know, and stuff, and you know.
Wicked.
But yeah, no, I got it through Waterstones. You know,
there you go.
Which I'm loving.
And lots of people have been saying to me, and especially it's weird because I've met a lot of people in like comic book industry and publishers and various people like that, and they're all saying to me like, "How did you break into Waterstones? What's the big secret?" And the secret is basically I just asked them. I think people sometimes don't realise that the simplest approach is like it's not like a guy you know who has a girlfriend who works down the pub with a guy who does this. And there's not all that kind of insider connectivity. I just blanketly emailed them, said, "Look, we're doing this. Are you interested?" And they were like, "Yep." And then that started the process. So you know, that's really you know. So and now we're in with them. They'll consider any books that are published under that particular publishing name. So if we do another one this year, I'll send it to them, and then if they approve it, that will go straight through to them again. So we've got a good relationship with them now, you know.
Cool.
So yeah, and that was fun because I've been wanting to do a lot of you know, a lot more drawing and stuff, and it was a really good project. But like I said, it also goes on the naughty list for 2025 because it was time consuming.
Well, do you know what? Somebody said to me the other day that their mantra for life is bite off more than you can chew and then chew like fuck. Basically, and it's like,
that's on my business card.
Because I suppose like with this as well, and again, for what it's worth, with the list of 5, it was meant to be 5 good things and 5 bad.
5 good things and 5 bad things. Yeah, and I made it.
I struggled. I got to be honest, and of course I say that, and that is in no way connected to the fact that Beyond the Black Void is in the top 5 good things of the year, because I think,
well, of course,
you know, as creatives, you know what we're like, we can do stuff that doesn't have an end. It's like, taking pictures, I'll go, I'll start drawing, I'll start whatever, and it's not very often that you have an end, and and then of course, you know, you get some people that go out and have an end on steroids, which is getting, you know, your comic book, you know,
yeah.
Waterstone. So yeah, I loved it. But I think though it's interesting. So in hindsight, I know things are slightly different now, but if you'd known the effort of getting this into Waterstones and all those shops, would you have done it? Or
yeah, well, I think it's one of those things where I realize that there's a part of myself that is just that won't take no for an answer. Like and in the last year, it's really become apparent where like I'll say, "Oh, are you interested?" Like at the moment, I'm speaking to TG Jones, you know, the guys that have taken over the high street brand of WH Smiths. And I thought, well, we're in Waterstones, so you know, why not? So I approached them.
Rhymes with Jones.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was my argument. And they were actually a much more trickier company to approach. They were like kind of like they have a very specific way that they do things. It's all very old fashioned and one thing and another. And the fact that they didn't say no, but they kind of tried to put me off from pursuing any sort of, because they've got their agreements in place with distributors and one thing and another. And they sent me around the houses a little bit. And I sat down one day and I thought, like, at this point, I should probably just give up because my energy can be better spent elsewhere. But then a little thing inside me just went, no, we're going to just keep going back to them because eventually they'll break. Because I think my resolve is stronger than the girl who I was messaging. I had a feeling in the last email, the last very stressed email, it sounded like she was crying as she was typing just through the email. So I think I'm really making waves there. But yeah, and I think that kind of like persistence in. But also, there's other people involved with this project. So I wanted it to be, not to talk about this solely, but like we'll keep going on about it. But I wanted it to be something that wasn't just like a vehicle for me just to do some art stuff and whatever. I wanted it to be something else. And it doesn't need to make loads of money. That's not the point of it. The point was to create something that we could then hand out to people and say, look, this is a series of work that was created at this time that we did as we got together and did together, you know, and we've actually had a brilliant response to it. So it's done its job, what we set out to do. And then, you know, and if we can flog a few to my mates, then, you know, even better. You know, Waterstone. The only catch is Waterstones take 99.9% of the profits.
Oh, do they?
So,
right. Okay.
No, I can't remember what the split is. Most of these book companies are like 60-40. So, if something's a tenner, they'll take £4 and leave you with 6. So it's actually not too bad in terms of, you know, you've not got to sell many copies to. You know, all I really wanted to do was sell enough copies that we covered the print costs, which we did. So and everything else is gravy, as they say, you know. I'm interested in your videoing. Sorry, but what you were saying about doing your videos and stuff like that. I feel like you can just go out and start filming stuff, but then having a purpose behind it makes all the difference because it gives you restrictions. You know, it's kind of like you've got a timeline. You've got a hang on a sec. I've got a message come up.
Is that another sale?
Yeah, it just came out of your bank account actually.
Oh well, excellent.
It's coming out on an hourly basis. Can't believe you bought so many. But like, you know, if you've suddenly got rules and somebody saying, look, you've got to hit this deadline, it can only be this long, you know, like with the print stuff, there's a certain amount of pages you hit before it becomes too expensive and one thing and another. So when those restrictions are in place and you know they're coming and you've got deadlines, that's, I think, the fun bit, because then you're like, all right, now we have to make this work in the next 3 months, and there's an end. Like you said, there's an end to it, you know. So, like, you know, maybe you need to like do. I mean, I don't want to fill your time with volunteering, but like, you know, there's a lot of charities and things out there that would love like some promo videos and things, and you know, and it doesn't have to be charities, but just you know, lots of clients that don't have any money anymore, that can't, you know, necessarily sell the value of something like that until they see it. You know, you know. So something like that.
Do you know what? This is something that actually is on my. I don't know what the other side of the list was. The top 5 things I liked, top 5 things that weren't cool last year. I think the current sort of zeitgeist that we find ourselves in, you know, which just seems to the economy just seems to be eternally crushing.
Yeah, I think on the downside of things, I just wrote the news down 5 times.
Yeah.
Because I'm an avid. I love the news. I like keeping up with current affairs and whatever. But more recently, especially in the last 6 months, my interest. I'm really into it all, but like it's just so depressing. Yeah. And on a daily basis, it just gets progressively worse with Trump and Farage, and not to get too political about anything in particular, but specifically those 2 guys. Like it's just like, and then all the other stuff and the wars and like ICE shooting people, and well, it's just like the price of Toblerones. I just don't understand.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned those 2 guys, because they were very firmly on my didn't like in 2025 list. And the reason that I don't like them, and again, this is not political or anything, is the fact that they're so clearly taking advantage of a situation and stuff where I feel like we should all be coming together a bit more, and and like the way that they divide and create this like kind of I don't know, like it's this or it's that, it's I or there's nothing in the middle.
I mean, Trump's an absolute master of manipulating those situations of like, you can go back 3 months and find out, the guy who's his best friend today 3 months ago was his worst enemy. And it's all like that kind of social media, that kind of TikTok environment of like small little 10-15 second sound bites that just get people's blood pumping and have a reaction. He's absolutely mastered that in his career. It's
100%.
And people keep falling for it again and again and again. I just don't understand. I mean, it makes me feel like Farage is going to be our next prime minister. That is like, but seriously, it does, because I feel like I look at America and I'm like, well, if that can happen there, and also, by the way, more than once, he's obviously re-elected back in. I mean, like, in total insanity, it's not completely bonkers to consider our own situation. I mean, like, our current government isn't doing so great. The previous one, which also wasn't doing so great. I mean, like, at some point they're going to throw the keys to a lunatic, and God knows what's going to happen after that.
And I think this is the thing that gets me with them, is that if you turn around this ability that they have, right, and if you turn it round so that it wasn't for pure evil and it was for good, you can imagine how much better the world would be. Like, and I appreciate, like, the way that Trump thinks and Farage thinks that the way that they're doing things is the right way, and that we should all, bend into line with that. And I appreciate it's different viewpoints. But one of the things that got me last year is one of my favorite charities. They were a client, but you're
going to say the swim
mental health swims,
because through you I ended up doing some work with them.
And
they sadly
because of, well, for whatever reason, like funding and the usual thing. And it's just like,
I mean,
how is it we're shutting off this stuff for people that need it?
That's right. But they are at the tail. I'm surprised that they kept going as long as they did, because so many charities of that size, and even bigger ones, folded. Like, as soon as America had the policy of basically not funding anything to do with foreign aid, and also not working with charities and companies that were taking funding from certain places, putting all these restrictions in, just decimated that entire, that entire sector. I mean, my wife works in the charity part of the BBC. They were massively affected by it all, and like redundancies and layoffs across the board for all of those charities, and lots of charities closing down. And, weirdly, in my career, like, what happens is I'll work for a charity and then about a year later they close down. So I'm starting to wonder if I'm sort of some kind of poison chalice. That's about, because we used to work for Tomorrow's People, and those guys have gone. I mean, like, so like all those, we're dusting off, we're implementing Trump's plan one charity at a time in the UK.
Wow, oh my goodness. Well, actually, do you know what? That's made me reconsider helping charities this year. Maybe I should just steer away, maybe go.
Save yourself some time. Yeah, just go for the big blue chip clients. Yeah.
Yeah.
Call Elon. Elon
Yeah.
always needs, he always needs a bit more video coverage.
Yeah, no, but yeah, coming back, because I know that we were talking about video with this. This is something that I want to do more in 2026. I think last year I was a bit scattergun with how I donated my time back to charities and organizations and stuff.
Yeah.
So this year I have like thought, you know what? Yeah, like not got specific targets, but I'm like, look, at least once a month, I'm going to be doing one day where it's either giving a talk to like school kids to tell them not to get a career in industry, be a hedge fund.
Just be prompting AI. Just be AI prompters. Everybody's going to be an AI prompter, so it's fine.
No, but like, which is nice. I've got one actually tomorrow that talking to, tomorrow or this time last week, whenever this goes out. But yeah, talking to kids about creative careers in aviation, because they exist. It's not just having crew and engineers. So I love doing that. And even if I know it's a bit corny, but even if you have one kid that goes, do you know what, I'm going to give that a go. Job's done. It's great.
No, it's huge. It's huge. And like you've been doing what you do for a long time now, right? And when you're younger, when you're in your 20s or something, and somebody says, "Oh, have you ever considered being a teacher?" I mean, excuse my language, but fuck all when you're 25, right? You haven't lived long enough to have any life experience. You might think you're the shit, you're really hot, but of course you do. But the truth is that like you need the decades of pain and anguish to fully be able to put everything in context, right? Because then you realize what the highs are and what the lows are, what the sweet and sour. Okay, so like then when you reach the heady heights of our age of 29, and add 20 years, you kind of realize that actually some of the things, and this is going to sound, my wife will laugh if she ever watches this, but like some of the things that you have to say are important. And they can help other people. And I think it's important, you don't have to go and get your PGCE or whatever and become a teacher and go through all that process just to pass that on. Doing talks and things like that, I think is so valuable. But I remember when I was at uni, some of the best talks we had would be people that were just doing it, right? That were like painters and writers and photographers and graphic designers, and they would just come and they'd talk to us all for an hour. And it was just so interesting to hear what people had to say about these things and like what it's really like, rather than some teacher who just left college and went straight into teaching, who hasn't got that experience. It's just so valuable,
Yeah, and do you know what? And I try to go into these things as a moderate, because I appreciate that there are photographers at two ends of the spectrum. So at this end, you've got the photographers that are like, do you know what? I picked up a camera in June, and now I'm shooting my first multi-million pound, campaign for Nike. And it's like, well, that doesn't happen, unless you get super lucky. And then at the other end, you've got some of the maybe older guys who are like, oh, no, photography's dead, like, don't bother, go into something else or whatever. And I find both extremes a bit draining. And I'm quite happy to go, listen, it is possible, but you've got to work hard. You've got to be ready to, like you say, take the lows, take the highs, and it won't be a straight line. It won't be a linear thing. So just just go out and give it a go, like at the very least. And then if you do end up crashing and burning and you're sitting in a procurement team somewhere for a large, Facebook conglomerate, at least you can sit there and go, do you know what? I gave it a go. Didn't work out. But, there's other ways.
But then I guess also, the thing about having a creative job and being in the creative industry is that like you are going to fail as much as you're going to succeed, right? So like, because in some ways, like the failing parts are the bits that make you a little bit more weathered and stronger, and better next time, right? So if you just succeeded all the time when you came out of college, it would just be like, it would be the most sickening Instagram you'd ever see. Just like some guy constantly doing all this amazing branding, some guy always looking great, some guy always, like all these things going on. It's like no one gets there without messing up. No one gets there without making mistakes, and nobody, like I could draw the same thing twice, and the first one would be good and the second one would be terrible. It's just one of those things where in a creative industry, you know, with photography and with writing as well, it's like you only get better if you keep doing it. If you do it and then stop, and then you're like, oh, I'll get to that next year, and then you try and start up again and then stop. And it's like no, you can't do that. It's like, if you want to be good at drawing, you have to draw every day. You want to be good at writing, you have to write every day. You might be writing and drawing a load of old shite, but you have to keep doing it. Yeah, the point is like, it's like the 10,000 hours thing and all that stuff. It's like, you put the time in, and eventually it will just happen for you, because your dedication, you know. And I think people sometimes mistake the fact that they mistake talent for kind of just abject ignorance and the inability to say no or just stop, right? So like, people that are really talented, they kind of do what they do, they get so far, and then maybe they have a bad day and they quit, right? But the people I like are the people that aren't that talented, but they just keep going. And then in 10 years' time, they're like the most amazing writers or the greatest artists you've ever seen, because they just never said, they didn't want to do anything else. Everything else, their part-time jobs and other things that are going on around that, the focus is always like, I want to get better at this. And it's like you play the guitar, I play the guitar. You know that like, the more time you put into playing the guitar, the better you get, or as you know, or as the older you get, the worse you get, however you want to look at it. But like, if your 15-year-old self or whatever had never picked up a guitar at that point and carried on, you'd only be as good as you were when you were 15, right? Now you just keep playing. All right, so you're not in Pink Floyd. I'm sorry to let you know. I don't know if they're going to reform for you, Nick. But the fact that you dedicated time to that and you progressively got better over time, is just, I mean, it just explains what I'm saying, which is that, like, you know, you've got to commit like 100% to it. You know, it's got to be a thing that even when you're not very good, you pick it up, right? And you just keep going. And
you know, this is something that I've been ruminating on as well, and especially we go back into trying to shoot more film photography this year and stuff. In that, actually, you don't have to show anybody the pictures. Like, you know,
no, that's right.
There's this assumption that you have to be like updating Instagram and getting the likes and all this sort of stuff. But actually,
I only put the shithole stuff up. I only put the amazing stuff up. I've got a stack of drawings and paintings here that I'm too embarrassed to show anyone.
Exactly, and I think we've all got that. We've all done that thing, and I certainly have, that you've taken that picture that you've gone, oh, do you know what, that's it, that is the greatest picture of all time. Then you look at it in the cold light of day and you're like, actually it's a bit shit. But then you don't have to show anybody. So I think for anybody,
but you didn't stop at that point. You didn't think, actually, do you know what, I've taken a bad photo, I'm just going to go off and do something else, right? You knew that you had sort of sense enough to know that it's a process, right?
Exactly,
of getting better.
And I think that for people that might be listening to this and thinking, oh, do you know what, I want to get into it, I think that's my biggest thing, is like, don't let other people be your biggest critic. And then
I'm all over that at the moment. Because I personally, like, for me, like, because I've been doing design work for such a long time, you know, and I do design work people like, I'm sure I do design work people don't like, but like, I can easily hide behind the branding of a business, okay? Because when you join a company that's been going for years and years and you're doing some design work, you run alongside them, you become a chameleon, you take on their abilities and you kind of move within that space. And it's, you know, you've got the stamp of this brand or that brand on your work, so it kind of helps or hinders depending on who you're working with or whatever. So I can kind of hide behind that a bit as a designer, right? So, but with illustration and painting, there is nowhere to hide. People are mean and they're also amazing. And like, but when you put your stuff out there, it's not that's not just about like a commercial use. Maybe potentially it could be a commercial job that you're working on, but it's coming somewhere from inside you, like photography. It's like it's closer to photography than design is in that respect, which is like, there's an amount of your own artistic and creativity going into it in a way that, like, design, you can kind of fudge it. You can work on an algorithm for certain clients that just works, and that works for everybody, and great. But like, when you're doing a painting, you're only as good as your last painting. You're the last thing someone sees, or the last thing into print. So like, you are constantly exposing yourself, and you're right, everybody is it can be very critical. especially when they're jealous of all your ability, you know, which I get like never, sorry, all the time. But what's interesting about that is that we did a comic book panel last year where we talked about what it means to be like, because you know, I've had a few things in print and whatever, but like not really broken into like the comic book industry like as a big thing yet, I'd like to add.
Yes,
but the point is that like people will, I'm at this weird junction where I'm showing industry people my work and they're trying to funnel me down a certain path because it's a popular thing, a popular style or a popular look. They'll say, look at this guy and if your work became more like this, or look at that guy and if you but then I know from my experience as a designer is like you don't do any of that. You have to like own your own style. So like my feeling about the whole thing is like it's better to fail on your own merits, right, on your own approach to things, than it is to succeed just being a copycat of something that is, and you'll know this, like you could have a particular style of photography. You could have been shooting like David Bailey for the last 10 years and echoing that style, but that's not you. That's you know, and I feel like there's something in that which is like you need to stay true to yourself in those aspects, whether it's working for other people or not. It's your journey in that way, you know.
Well, do you know what, this is an interesting thing, because this is one of the things I put on my top 5 things I didn't like, but then I crossed it out. Like, oh, actually, do you know what, that it sounds a bit too angry and, you know, old manish. But hey, we're here.
Were you shouting at a cloud? Were you shouting at a cloud at the time?
But like something that I noticed more of last year, and you know, and I inhibit quite a, you know, like LinkedIn is my place for professional, you know, connections. And stuff. And what I was noticing is that there were more posts last year where other photographers were going, well, it was almost like a really subtle dig. So it was like, you know, the one that comes to mind straight off the bat is like, headshots don't have to be on grey, right? That was the thing. Now, of course, there's an argument for it, but at the same time, as somebody that shoots quite a lot of headshots on grey because it works and it is just a thing, right? And we're not talking about dark grey, a nice light modern grey. It's like, whoa. There are people that want a headshot on grey. You know, that is the thing. You don't have to force everybody down your own style of photography, which is slightly different. I can't think of a nice way to describe it, but we'll leave it at that. But, you know, that's the thing. And it's like, well, we can all inhabit this space and be photographers and stuff, but let me do my thing for my client.
I was going to say that as well. Like, if someone's doing something particular, and then that's fine, or another person has a style at doing something, that's fine. But when someone says this is how you should be doing something compared to other people that aren't doing that, I think that's incorrect, because like you said, it's like you do what works for you, and you do and maybe you disagree with that person. I mean, I would say like you know, everybody has their own particular style and approach to it, and like there are headshots on grey, right, and then there are headshots on grey. That in itself, there's a lecture that I'd come to listen to you for like 3 hours discuss, like the finer points of grey, right? I would be all over that, because like that's like the nitty gritty of like that's the kind of blanket statement of someone that doesn't necessarily understand that actually you can't close the door to these things, and they're successful for a reason, you know. Can
I just say my favorite grey is 18% grey. If you're wondering, that's
a wonderful grey. Is that with a little 20%, a little 5% magenta in there, or is it just a straight out of black?
That's a little bit psychedelic.
Too warm, is it? Getting a little bit of the old Welsh dragon in there. Yeah.
No. I like it cold and measured.
Cold blue. Yeah, maybe a little 20% cyan in there. Yeah, we'll mix it up a bit.
A bit bleak. But I think out of all the things that I learned last year is to trust my own judgment, trust my own way of doing things, and not try to copy else, because you're right. If you start copying someone else, you're not going to get there, you know. So
well, exactly. You have to stay, and people, you can stand out for good and bad reasons, but like you still have to stay true to what you're doing, you know. And again, I just come at it from a sort of illustration point of view, which is that like I don't, and also from a design point of view, because I've looked at a lot of portfolios where everyone's work looks the same, you know, and like I immediately like, and this is a good folio tip for anyone that's interested, which is like, you know, most people stuff all of their weird and stuff they're not sure about in the back, right, in their sketchbook and the scraps. So like whenever we would do portfolio reviews, if anyone would come in and show their work and they're either looking for a job or whatever, I just turn straight to the back. I'm not interested in like a nicely photoshopped packet of Huggies nappies, you know. It's fine, you can do packaging and identity, that's fine. I think that's a given, right? You have to have that skill. But you go to the back and that's where you find all the weird and wonderful, interesting things. The logos people don't like or they're not sure about. You know, and it's the same with like arts portfolios. I'm sure it's the same with photography. It's like the first 20 pages are what you'd expect, and then the last 3 or 4 are like the more experimental stuff and the more interesting stuff that makes that person unique, you know. And I know people that have got jobs off the back of their portfolio because some of the concepts that they're coming up with or their way they work is far more interesting than just seeing another nicely finished logo that looks similar to something that you saw in someone else's folio, you know. So standing out, for sure. And I think, you know, like I said, again, just in terms of time, like you couldn't really discuss that in any length when you're in your 20s, when you're first starting. But now you're so weathered and wise. You know, as I would say, there's plenty of tinsel in the tree, you know.
Oh, mate, I know. Tell me about it.
No. Well, if I could grow a normal beard, there would actually. This bit always grows fine. My burners are always fine. A little bit patchy around here, but I don't know. And then I look at Keanu Reeves, and he's a bit patchy, and I'm like, he pulls it off. So obviously, I do. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really good shout about the portfolio, because I think when I see people and their portfolios online, I feel like a lot of it is very safe, and it's very, you know, and especially for new people, like, you know, coming out of college, one of the things that I see a lot of is car photography. Right now, I have a particular interest in it and stuff.
Yeah.
But you're right, it all looks the same and all the editing is the same. And you look at it, you're like, oh, well, there's a thing, you know, and it's like, well, actually, what I want to see is how have you looked at doing car photography? And you've hit the right nails of, you know, this is the composition and the exposure and the feel of the edit and stuff. But actually, where's that picture where you're taking that car and putting it in a totally different situation and something that really is going to make me go, oh, yeah, okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
That's right. And I feel like sometimes, but there's a fine line there, because sometimes it can be done really creatively and successfully, but then sometimes people can step over the mark and it becomes for the sake of, right? So then it becomes like it starts to shift away from the focus of what that particular project or that photography or that illustration or design work or whatever is based on. So there's a fine line there, but if you hit that spot, that's the sweet spot, right? And like you're right, you know, nobody just wants to see the same thing again and again and again, you know. And you look at like portfolio reviews, people, you know, especially like D&AD and things like that, people are seeing hundreds of folios. They're all the same. They're all the same. So what they're interested in, and the only thing that they really want, is to see how your thinking is different. So whether your finishing is up to scratch, or whether you're you know, how you approach your work is you know, does the bare minimum it means to kind of work as a professional. They're looking for what makes you unique beyond that, you know. Like I you know, like I think about it now, and like I've done this recently, where I entered a competition every year for the last 3 years, okay? And it's an artist competition, and the brief is always like, you know, this is a comic book brief, you've got to do this in this number of pages and whatever. The first year I phoned it in, I didn't really make much of an effort. And then when I went along and saw a lot of other work and the things that got through, I thought, oh, I should probably just spend a bit more time on this, other than just phoning it in and thinking, it'll be fine. The second year I got into the final, which was great, and they really liked it, and they really liked how. And that year I just did whatever I wanted. Then, but I didn't win, and the person who won was like, which I was upset about because it was middle-aged white generic guy, which obviously I tick all the boxes there, you know, with his little white privilege. And his style of drawing was fine, but it wasn't anything out there. And I was like, well, I did what I felt was right for myself, but I didn't quite get it. So then the next year I dialed it back a little bit, thinking, well, surely, you know, and that was a mistake because I didn't stay true to myself. And I did like what I did in the end, and one thing another. It's in my folio and one thing another. But I look at that as an experience and say, like, that was me making a mistake over a long period of time and thinking it was a solution for something. And actually what I should have done is just ripped all that up and just done what I thought was right. And, you know, did a massive face plant on my own terms. And that's how I'm doing it this year. I'm going to do this competition again this year. Just because, like, it's actually the only opportunity you get to show your work to certain publishers. They don't accept cold calling for writing or illustration anymore. So it's the only way you can do it. So, and also I like the projects. So, and it fattens my folio up a little bit more. So I'm going to do something absolutely mental this year. I'm going to like have a nervous breakdown doing it, present it all, and then just flip the bird and walk off stage. I think that's how I'm going to approach it. Because like, I feel like that's sort of more, that feels like I'm staying true to myself then, you know, and savagely burning all my bridges.
Well, do you know what? Funny enough, I think for the last, so I've been in a professional photographer now for 21 years, I think it is, right? It'll be 21 years in like a week. So, and in all that time, I've only ever occasionally entered photography competitions. Like I've entered business competitions, the business and stuff, but I've often stayed away from photography competitions because I think I've got it in my head. I'm like, oh no, I'm never going to win. I'm, you know, whatever, you know, and this. And when I do enter, you know, I don't get anywhere. I think it's because I've done exactly the same that you've done. Is I've not actually taken time to consider it and go, right, okay, what are the judges looking for? What did the judges see last year? What's the style that they want? And actually melding, you know, and taking a bit of care and melding my thing. So I'm doing that this year. Actually, I've got my eye on a couple of things that I want to enter. I want to win, otherwise it will be the biggest soul-crushing event of my entire life.
I can categorically say now, winning is the worst thing that could happen to you, and I'll tell you why. If you win,
the fast cars and the, you know,
your ego will explode, and you know, you'll become this kind of utter diva. Whereas if you come second, right, and I can tell you this from experience, if you come a soul-crushing second, what you will learn from that is so much more. You will, from the jaws of defeat, will come like, you know, something much more glorious. You know, I know people that have won these and I keep going back to the comic book competitions, but I know people that have won them, and they end up like then working with publishers, and then the publisher compromises their style again to basically mold it into something it's not, because you're like, oh, thank you so much for publishing my work, and they're like, well, yes, but now you need to do this, and now you need to do, you know, it's like notes from a studio. I'm sure if you're, that's why I always love movies, and I thought maybe one day I'll get into like making movies. Sounds like a nightmare, like when you've got studio executives with the purse strings basically telling you what you can and can't do. I just feel like I just wouldn't be able to handle any of that. So like, there's a lot of that in publishing, and I feel like that's why self-publishing stuff is so much more interesting to me at the moment, because there are no rules, right? You can just do whatever you like. You want to write something that's 10 pages, 20 pages, or 50 pages, and illustrate and paint it, or screen print it, or do it in use spray cans. There are no restrictions at this point, and that's the kind of stuff I'm interested in. So, like, why would I kind of dumb down and try to fit into a mold that clearly is never going to work for me? So like, and I know a lot of other creators that feel the same way. So I just feel like at the moment, like that self-publishing circle, you know, we get enough things going on there. I think we'll end up getting noticed for the right reasons, rather than trying to fit into a shape that isn't quite right. You know? And I'd say that the same about your photography is like, it's hard because separating your professional life from like a creative artistic life is kind of difficult. And that's down to the fact that we've both been doing it for a while now.
Yes.
Because when you work professionally, you've got to become a bit of a pleaser to a certain degree. But when you work artistically, there are no rules, right? You only please yourself. So then you're learning about your own boundaries, about how far you can take things. So I would say, like, just go the whole hog, Nick. I want to see what happens to Nick Prime 2.0 as the flower opens and this beautiful butterfly emerges. I want to see what that looks like. Maybe that's part of your folio that, like, that like you say, until you find that spare time to do it, you always neglect, right?
I think it's a good shout, and I think, and this is the thing as well with personal projects, which I've come to appreciate, is that you can push the boundaries a lot more, and there's certain things that like I'm pushing more into the region of, like, CEO portraits and stuff like that. This year I'm going to do more of that, but there is a limit to what you can ask a CEO to do, or you start ingressing on their dignity and all that stuff. And maybe just because you're trying to be this artist, whatever. So so that's what the outside work is going to be, is like that kind of creative thing to go, do you know what, I can't ask anybody else to do this. I couldn't present this to a client or particular client, so let's just go and experiment and see what happens.
But I think it's also,
it doesn't matter.
But I think, but also I think it's really healthy to show people, I'm delivering on these projects and I'm delivering what people want, and we're doing it in a creative and interesting way. And then there's like a little bit of your work that's just like, that's not appropriate, right? That's just like, it's the little margin off to the side that's like, that's the stuff that's like out there. That's the stuff that's like, that you would never be able to pull into a corporate environment. You would never be, but then what ends up happening is that people see that and they find a place for it, right? Okay, so it might not become a regular occurrence where you're doing that particular style or approach or that particular shot for lots of different things, but you'll find there's overlap. Because I did that. I started doing a lot more illustration. It was completely disconnected from my design work, even though I do a certain amount of illustration within that. It's a different approach. And then suddenly I'm getting people approaching me about doing illustration and design jobs that are now focused on my drawings and paintings and stuff. So I'm just like, that's great, because but I also get to say, when they say, oh, could you just do it like this, I just get to say no, which is amazing, and not give a shit about it, and wear a beret and throw my margarita against the wall.
What I want. I just want to I want to earn that beret status. That's the
I think you've earned it. If I were you, I'd start wearing one.
I might do, actually. Like I suppose 20 years.
Do pretty green, do a little red beret.
I don't know. I'll have to have a look. Because I feel like as well, a beret gives. If you turn up on a shoot in a beret, I think people are going to just trust you even more. They'll be like, this guy's creative. Oh my god.
They're going to be like, they're going to be like, he's obviously one of two things. He's really creative and we shouldn't engage in his creative vibe because he's on a level we don't understand, or he's a mental and we don't want to engage with him because he's on a level we don't understand. There's none of the 18% grey there. It's it's like top and bottom. It's like no one will mess with you,
Well, but I suppose by that point you're already in a building, so they have no choice but to deal with you.
No, exactly.
Really creative.
At that point, they've invested in Nick Morrish, the brand, right? so it's too late. Oh he's in the building. He's past security.
Oh my lord, yeah. God, I like that idea. Yeah, just a nice, flourishing silk scarf or something.
See. But I don't think there's any harm in having some craziness in your portfolio, and like, again, things that please you, that interest you, because it is all talking points, and people know there's a limitation with what you can do with headshots, and there's a limitation with what you can do with certain corporate photography and one thing and another. But if they think that's where the buck stops with you, they'll never ask you beyond that to stretch your creativity. And if you're already doing it, then there might be a place for you elsewhere that fits, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what happens, because people start to see it and they start to go, oh, that'd look great in our annual review, or maybe we're all hanging upside down from a goalpost in our next team meeting, whatever. I don't know, but like, just things like that. I think like but also it's good to have other interests going on that isn't just solely focused on the job you're doing. Like whenever I would go into the Prince's Trust to talk about projects, I'd usually have a load of design books with me that were not related to anything we were doing. And it would be things like this is so boring, but like interesting folds and typography and things like that. And I'd force them to listen to me at various points while I discussed why we should look at these things. And eventually someone just said, shut him up and let's just do something. And a lot of those folding techniques and booklets and brochures and fold out posts and things, we ended up using them further down the line because they realized that not every brochure has to be an A4 staple thing. Not every, and it's about pushing their perceptions as much as your own, I think, or attempting to. But yeah, so I did have we've talked basically of all the things I've written down, we've more or less talked around them. But the only thing that I did say, again, another thing which I think is on the naughty list, but also on the nice list for 2025 is, and I'll talk into it a little bit more detail in a minute, but is the expanding use of AI.
I'm so glad you said that, because
I'm interested to hear what you have to say
on my
about
list
it
as well.
I'm interested to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, right.
It's a big topic. Yeah, right. I'll just put my seatbelt on.
Have you got a cuppa? I let me start off by saying I find AI completely fascinating, right? And when I say fascinating, I'm talking about stepping out of it and looking at it as a whole, whatever, because there's a few reasons. Number one, I love the branding job on it. Now, I was talking to a professor of like data science or whatever he is, Cardiff University, towards the start of last year. And I was like, AI and, blah, 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 blah. And he kind of got it down in a sentence. He said, well, basically AI is just data analysis. That's all it is. That's all it's doing is it's taking all this data and then presenting you with, a summarized version of this data that will help you make a decision, whatever.
Yes.
Problem is that I've now got in my head is that artificial intelligence sounds so cool. It sounds so good that people have almost like taken it and just gone, oh my God, yeah, okay, right, AI, this is it. This is the answer to everything and whatever. Now, that is where I think we are going wrong, is because AI for me is a tool, right? So on my good list of stuff, AI has been invaluable for me last year for two reasons. Number one, on personal note, I've got this kind of heartless, non-sentient being that I can ask questions to and have a conversation with about any topic that I want, and get.
And just to clarify, you're not talking about your wife here.
No.
So if you are watching, he's not talking about you, as well.
Not my wife. No.
No. Just to clarify, it's the AI and not a marriage. Yeah.
And that's incredible. And of course, and that's at any time of the day. We've all done it as business owners. You've woken up at 3 a.m. and gone, oh my God, we're all fucked. And then actually being able to get onto AI and go, am I fucked? And AI is, I think, programmed to just be the most optimistic person in the room. It's like, hey, just keep on going.
Don't worry. Yeah.
So that's the first thing I've used it for. The second thing is I use it in editing now. Right now, I absolutely draw the line at image creation, and I'll come on to that in a second.
Yeah.
But in my editing, it has sped up my process so much, and it is frightening, right? And I'm going to use an example. I shot some headshots last year, and I don't know if you've got them in your glasses. I don't, because I'm a cheapskate, but people have these blue reflections to stop the computer.
Do you know what? I did have them in the previous set of these. They have like the UV, whatever screen reflecting things, but not in this set. I had the slightly green ones, and actually they were quite useful, because what I noticed when I'm filming or doing anything is it just picks the lights up constantly. But the other pair didn't at all. But I think I cheapskated out, and they were like, it was like an extra £100 or something. And I was like, no,
So
I'm going to be changing them again in 6 months, so I'm not going to do that, you know.
Well, I'm glad I won't offend you on this then, because so basically I photographed this guy who had these glasses, and when you're photographing glasses, to get rid of reflections, the thing is you put your head down so you look over the top of the glasses. No matter what we did, this guy's glasses blue. They were just blue. Every position blue. And you only have a certain amount of time for a headshot, and I think this one was like 10 minutes, and I got to like 8 minutes. I'm like, I cannot do anything about this, so I'm just going to deal with it in post, which I know is kind of not the best thing. It is the
but when you've got a time when you've got a time constriction, you don't have much choice.
Exactly.
You know, you've got to solve it another way. It's fine.
So I was like, right, okay. So I got back to the studio, and I looked at these pictures. I'm like, geez, right, okay. If I do this by hand, each individual glass is going to take an hour or so to do of careful brushing over. And do you know what? I'll give AI a go. So I selected the area, just went, hey, can you remove the reflections? You know, the blue, whatever. Keep, don't adjust anything. And it did it in less than a minute, easy. And absolutely flawless. Like better than I would have done spending an hour. So I'm like,
that's where it's useful. That's where it's useful, where it's like you're not using it to create anything new. You're not using it to pass off as a piece of work you've done, which hasn't been generated by hand or whatever. You're using it as a tool to kind of solve something within the parameters of what you're working in, right? And I remember, like, a similar sort of thing is, like, I used to do a lot of work for Lacoste, for another company that I used to work for, and a lot of the stuff we used to do was we would create the catalogs for Lacoste shoes. Now, what they would do is they would create like 500 or 600 prototypes. So they were like held together with sticky tape and buds and whatever. And what the idea was is we'd make these lookbooks, and then they would go out to different people, and then people would select the styles they like, and then they'd actually create the shoes based on the amount of interest from those shoes. But obviously you need to make them look as good as you can. So there's a certain amount of retouching on the shoes, of course. That's something which is a bespoke thing per shoe. There isn't really an algorithm to solve that. But the thing we used to have to do that was so time consuming was cut out the backgrounds, right? So this is before the days of iPads and before Wacom tablets were actually super sensitive. This was like point and click with your mouse tool. You'd have 500 pairs of shoes, and I can remember like getting paid. And you never get paid overtime in a design company, but I would get paid overtime on Saturdays and Sundays. And if I took like 30 shoes home with me and cut them out over the weekend, and now, like, AI will do that in the blink of an eye. Exactly. Like, you could do all 600. You could take the backgrounds out perfectly. In under an hour. I'm sure you can for all 600, and that's weeks of work saved. So in that respect, it's incredibly useful, as a tool. It's only solving an issue within, like I said, within the boundaries of what you're trying to achieve in terms of, it's not designing the shoe. It's not putting them in an environment where they're to be sold, or you're not making an ad out of it. It's purely a functional thing, which I think it's absolutely flawless for, And like you said, when people say AI, we've been talking about AI our whole lives, right? The Terminator and all of these stories and sci-fi stories about computers going mad and all this sort of stuff. So we've been discussing it our entire lives, and now it's here. People have that generational preconceived idea that that's what it is. But like you said, it's like it's a data resource that will that has a multitude of functions that when used correctly is an incredibly efficient tool, and when used incorrectly can be misleading, right?
Well, you've read my mind and segued into the next part of it, in that this is where I struggle, and I've started seeing it on LinkedIn. People are now obviously feeding their faces into AI and going, hey, can you create a picture of me working at the Tate Britain or whatever it is, and out spits this thing. And that's where I have problems with it, because first off, this is not authentic. This is not real. All AI is doing is just creating slop. I mean, there's no other word for it, is there? And And I think because of that, the feeling that I get when I see AI generated images on LinkedIn, I'm like, well, how am I meant to trust what you're saying if you're quite willing to go off and create something fake? Pass it off as, you know, you in the thing. It's like, how then do I trust you as a person and stuff? Now, you know, to keep my blood pressure down about this sort of stuff, what I've sort of looked at, you know, with this, and there's a brilliant podcast by a guy called Mark Manson who did the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck book, and it's brilliant.
Right. Yeah.
And he did a podcast about AI, and in it he said that actually the way that he looked at things, and I've come to agree with him, is that AI presents a brilliant opportunity for me and people like you in terms of the value of human connection, of real human connection, will go up as more of this. And I think there's like a stat that it's like 50-50 now, isn't it, between human generated content and AI generated content on the internet. And the stuff that we're creating is going to become more valuable because it will be more useful, it'll be more authentic, it'll be better for people, right?
Unique as well. It's like that's you know.
And ultimately, you know, we've been humans for whatever it is, 300,000 years, and we haven't really changed that much. You know, I mean, I'm sure if you give us all half a chance, we'd be roaming the savannah in a loincloth, you know, chasing saber-tooth tigers. You know, that's where
I did that last weekend.
Exactly. And you know, and so I don't think we're going to change that survival instinct. And the minute that AI looks like it is going to take over, whoever the person is in charge of the main AI mainframe, wherever that is, will just go, I'll just unplug the mofo and then it'll stop. And
sure.
So that's my take on it. One last thing I'm going to say.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry. One last thing I'm going to say on the slop side of things. So I know you've been really super generous with your limited time, and you know, at 4 a.m. when you should be sleeping, you've been banging up some designs for me on logos.
I just put it I put it through ChatGPT and it gave me like 50 logos like that.
Well, this is the thing. Like, joking aside, when I came up with that one that I sent you that I drew, I put that into AI and I said, "Can you digitize this for me? And this is what I'm looking for, and whatever." And it came back with the worst shite I've ever seen in my life. And I was like,
it's so hit and miss.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say, just a nice little segue there, is that basically, you know, like just reiterating the fact that, like, as a tool, you know, historically we've had this dilemma and this conversation again and again about all technology as things go on, right? So in the 80s it was home personal computers, in the 90s it was the internet, then it's social media and all of these kind of things. But what happens is people learn how to use it properly. When it first comes out, everyone abuses the hell out of it. It's like they get it to write scripts for movies and they're doing, I don't know, book covers with like Brad Pitt's arm or, you know, whatever. Like, you know, there's just being generated, like you said, this AI slop that's just being turned around. It's allowing people that don't consider themselves to be artists to kind of like create just a whole load of old crap and put it out there. It's allowing office managers to put together probably some of the worst PowerPoint presentations ever, which I would love to see a book of one day, by the way. If someone can capture that moment of like, you know, people putting together their own creative PowerPoint presentations, there's money in that. But what is interesting, and some people, you know, when it first started becoming such a thing that people could go to and use as a tool, I started having conversations with people, and not clients or anything, but just people in general, like, not that I go to that many dinner parties, but people would say, oh, are you worried about AI?
Yeah.
Because there's a conversation to be had around like, well, is this essentially moving in on the creative industry? Is it actually replacing you and all this kind of stuff? And actually what I found is quite the opposite. It's actually become incredibly helpful because a client would come to me and say, we need a thing that's kind of like this thing, and they'll write a brief and it'll be a bit vague, and then I'll go off for a week and I'll come up with a load of concepts. Now I'm getting these briefs, but I'm getting their kind of ChatGPT scamps along with it, saying this is all wrong and not quite right, but it's along the thinking of what we. So it's actually becoming like a very helpful tool in terms of briefings. So now what happens is, rather than me wasting any time going down certain routes that maybe aren't quite right, or actually having more time to explore options that maybe I wouldn't have had before, it's become very useful to have that direction. And I found that that's the first thing. I mean, the second thing is that when people think, oh, you know, and you know, I keep coming back to comic book industry. It's really about art. It's really about like the illustration side, painting side of things. People, there's a big thing about AI slop and nobody wanting to use it and one thing and another. I think they're all making a mistake, because I think they're not viewing it in the correct manner. They're seeing it as a replacement for what they do, and they're seeing it as being something that can be held up to the light as much as their own work that they generate. Actually, I see a world where there's I see a world, I feel like I should be standing behind, I see a world where there's AI, we all live together in harmony. But I do see that. I do see that. I think there's a middle ground where it ends up helping a lot of people. And, you know, like just to go back what we were saying about using it as a tool to solve something within your, you know, within the production side of things. I mean, if you think for a second that every movie studio and every animation studio, every gaming studio haven't already been using this for years, then you're like, I don't know, you're totally naive, because like they have been. The minute ChatGPT could rewrite a film script, all of those script doctors got fired. And now you watch a movie and it's like, this whole film was written by one person. And you're like, and ChatGPT. Because like that's where, you know, that's a go-to to remixing. And I think writers are the ones that have the biggest issue, because that they can. There was a time where, and not that long ago, 6 months ago, you could really tell a piece of writing from an AI output, from a free AI bot or ChatGPT or whatever. More recently, it's the quality has changed so good. That thing is learning so fast that like the quality of that has become almost, I mean, you would struggle 5 pieces of writing to identify which was the one written by AI. That's the worrying bit. It's like, are books being replaced rather than like, you know, if you think J.K. Rowling hasn't already put in, you know, what's the next Harry Potter book, and it's been written for her, you know, and then she starts reading it, it's like, actually, there's some stuff that works here. You know, people use that, you know, and I think like there is a line that you cross, but as long as you don't cross that line, I feel like, and you're staying true to yourself, then you're not duping anyone into thinking this is something you've done, you know.
Well, this is quite interesting, because a lot of photographers who I've seen on forums and stuff, you know, and with headshot photography, they're like, right, that's the end of headshot photography, because if you can put in a picture and it's going to come back, it's going to do all this stuff and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yes, there is certainly a community for that and an audience for that, absolutely. But in my head, the same person that's going to make that AI headshot of themselves would have done it on an iPhone anyway. It's just changed the tool that they're using. The people that like having their headshots done by professionals and by humans and stuff, or I should say human professionals, it's not either or, but like, like they like having a picture and they will continue to do so. And one of my clients who is, you know, interested in AI and all that, he's been unequivocal, and he said, I still want a human to do the photography and the video and all that stuff. So I think there's a lot, but it comes back to what we were saying at the start. Everything now is binary. Like you have to either be I don't know, and it's either this or it's that. There's nothing in between, and you know, all that stuff. And actually I think there is, and you know, and look, the fact of the matter is we all know that nothing in life is free, right? So eventually all of these AI bots and agents and whatever are going to start charging subscription fees every month.
Yeah, well, I think there is already like a premium ChatGPT membership and all that kind of stuff.
And I think it'll become a base, and I think people will just go, do I really need to use AI for this or that or whatever? Am I really going to pay 30 quid a month for something which I could actually do? I think that'll change things dramatically.
I think you're right though about having that, you know, the human interaction element. I mean, like you could argue that like businesses don't I think anyone that's overcharging for those things, anyone that's kind of like doing substandard work for a lot of money, I think they're probably in trouble slightly, because now it's like, well, we don't want to pay a premium rate for something that's basic, so like there's maybe a little bit of a rebalancing in terms of like how much you can put on your invoice for certain jobs, because there are solutions to it. And the reason I bring that up is because I did some work with a company recently where we needed a voiceover for about 5 or 6 seconds at the start and about 5 or 6 seconds at the end. It's very simple. Now, your general everyday AI voiceover it stands out like a sore thumb, right? To have a voice actor do that piece of work was going to cost something like 70 grand, and then it was like a 20 grand buyout every year if you wanted to continue using it. Now, this was for like a little small viral campaign, so they didn't have that kind of money. So, and I wasn't involved with the production end of this kind of thing. And this is where it starts to get a bit blurry, because they decided that actually what they would do is just subscribe to one of the premium voice acting services and see if they might be able to get something that's close to what they wanted. So they did that for the initial concept version. They got an AI voiceover to do the start and finish, saying exactly what they wanted, etc., controlling the amount of words and how long it was said and all this kind of stuff. And you could have it in like man, woman, Texan, whatever. And it was shockingly awful. And then the process of that project continued to 6 months later, revisited the same company to basically see if they might be able to solve it again, except this time it had developed in that short space of time to the point where you could change the cadence of the speech. And it was unbelievably real, to the point where I don't know if they used it in the end. I actually think they just got someone from the office to do it, which sort of makes sense to me, right, if you can really get it done. But the fact that like they went so far down the line and almost did it, and there was a moment where they sent the variations and it was very hard to tell. And I've got the ear for it. I'm like, I can tell when, you just know, right? It's like discussing it with Siri or whatever. It's like, you just know. But this was so good, and it was like a premium site, and it was like, I think it was sign up for like 400 quid a year or something, but you had unlimited access to all of this stuff. And I think for, when I think about like charities and things like that, suddenly that becomes like a viable option. So then you can't argue against the fact that actually that serves a purpose as a tool for people that don't have those bigger budgets and things.
Well, also, there's a guy in our neck of the woods that has been talking about AI in video, and one of the case studies that he believes will be the future is like, let's for argument's sake say, a domestic violence charity, right? It's so difficult to get a victim, and rightly so, to get a victim of domestic violence talking on camera. Blur them out or whatever, silhouette them. But actually creating an AI avatar of somebody, and you say this is whoever it is, and you put that voice on it and stuff, so you anonymize them, but you're still putting a face on there that's not an actor. That's actually quite powerful, and I mean, again, I talked about authenticity and reality and not trusting people. I think there are caveats to that, of course.
There are exceptions. I think there
stuff like that is absolutely spot on.
And I think that's the issue, isn't it? That's the problem, is that it's not just like black and white. It's like you can't just say, someone mentions AI and everyone's like, oh, I hate AI. It's like, well, no, you don't, because you've been using it on your phone for the last 5 years. You just don't even know it, right? Like every time you have the background automatically taken out of a photograph that you've taken on your iPhone, that's AI, by the way. Like they're already using it in a way that I'm discussing, which is as a useful tool, it can be useful. But then there are the unique cases of like, actually, it can really benefit. It's not a replacement for something that you could do. It's if it enhances what you're doing, then I think there are arguments to say you can use it within those parameters, and it could be for, like I said, for a good cause. There's not a very great big budget, right? But then what you don't really want to see is like an entire ad campaign by Adidas that's completely AI generated, unless it's like a wild concept that someone's come up with, and it's well known that this is an AI campaign, and it's meant to be a bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit kind of ironic. But then you don't want to see him do it again after that, right? Because then it's suddenly like it's replacing like the creativity. So yeah, it's difficult, and I only see it getting more difficult to see where the line is as time goes on. You know.
Well, this would be interesting to hear your take on it. I mean, I know that some, you know, like Instagram does it already to an extent and stuff, but do you think AI material should be marked? You know, so it comes up and it says this.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think it's virtually impossible to do that. I think unless it's like a studio that is creating. Well, the problem is that where do you draw the line with that? If Disney uses AI to retouch Ariel's eyelashes, right? Does that now need an AI watermark? So then when people watch that film, they think the whole thing is generated by AI, or it says partially generated by AI, or, you know, or like anyone that's used, I mean, you know, anyone that's using a filter on Teams or whatever, you know, I'm sure there's some AI part of that's blurring your face and removing the wrinkles and or adding them in my case. But like, you know, like does that mean every meeting you have, it should have, you know, this image is converted through it's like, do you know what I mean? And then so on one hand, yes, I'd like to be able to identify when someone takes the photograph versus when somebody just generates one, right? I want to see the difference. But then there's all of the gray areas in between, which is like, well, you know, you used AI to change the glasses tint, right? Does that mean you should have a watermark on your work? I mean, I don't think so, because is that any different than you hand touching them out, retouching them? It's like, should you then have a watermark that says this image has been retouched? I mean, you've only got. I saw a picture of Chris Pratt the other day. You know, the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, or whatever. He's got a new movie out, and there was like just a candid photograph of him and his wife, and they're driving somewhere. He looks so old and wrinkly and like so grey and tired. And then the next thing on my feed was like the poster for his new movie, and he's like the most retouched guy I've ever seen. I'm like, should that? I mean, before AI, should that poster have had, you know, a warning that says this is not Chris Pratt's real skin tone? I mean, it's just like, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I on one hand, I want to know. But on the other hand, you might as well just watermark everything, because at some point it's going to go through that filter, right?
I thought about this, which is why I was interested to find out. I think in my head, I like the idea of having like a threshold of like, do you know what, it's 70%, something like that. That 70% of this is real, so you don't have to mark it. But if it's anything that is like 100% generated, even 70% generated, it has to come up and say created by AI, you know, or whatever. Because you're right. You know, there are some things that I use AI to touch up on a photograph.
Yeah,
you're talking about 50 pixels. So
does that then, you know, if you're
imagine
exactly, but imagine if you're running that through a filter to say, has AI, you know, black and white, has AI been used on this image? The answer would be yes, right? So is it easier to go the other way and basically say this photograph was created without the use of AI? Because I think that's what you'll end up seeing. This album was created, you know, all of the tracks on this album had no influence from AI. I think you're more likely to see that kind of watermark, because as time goes on, I think those things will become so much more valued, so much more precious, when you're like, a human being took this photo. A human being did this, you know. And again, I keep going on about these comic book competitions or whatever. There is a zero tolerance AI thing, and they don't want any, you know. But you know, I look at their magazine and I'm like, I'm starting to see red flags, you know, like the way this type is laid out, or like some of the compositions of these illustrations,
or the 20 fingers.
Well, there's that as well. Yeah, there's that. But yeah, exactly. The sort of eye in the middle of the forehead. but then, you know, when it's a genuine piece of work that's been created by a human being, you know, is that the better time to have a certificate along with your drawing that says, you know, AI didn't touch this?
Authenticity, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting thing that I read, that some photographers now are purposely making mistakes in films to mark them out as authentic, because obviously AI just goes, I'm going to make the perfect average of, you know, whatever this is.
Yeah.
I did have
that's what they say about illustrators and painters, right? They say nobody has a style. Everyone is actually people recognize artists from the mistakes they make in their work. You know, someone's trying to draw the perfect line, but they don't, and they're consistently crap at it. That's their style, but actually it's the errors in their work that identify them. And that's which I like that, because I've got quite a few errors in my work.
Well, I've had 20 years of errors. Pretty much everything I've done.
I think I've been easily identifiable since day one.
Yeah, my specialty awfully is eye-catching and memorable.
Well, I think it's the fact that you've always got your finger or thumb in the corner of all your photos.
You know,
even AI can't remove the thumb. We've tried.
20 years ago, people told me that I was stupid for doing that, but who's laughing now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the way to the bank with your dodgy photos. But when everyone else was getting the good cameras and you were still using your Polaroid, they were all laughing. But no longer, Nick, no longer.
No, I think you're right. I think the whole thing is just too binary. It is just, you know, it is crazy. I mean, AI is transcribing this as we chat and all this sort of stuff.
I'm interested to see where it goes from here, because every day I feel like surely this is the maximum amount of output that this thing can generate, that people can use it like to solve problems and solve issues and whatever. And yet then the next day it manages to do something else, which is just completely crazy, isn't it? They're saying now that, like, if you're looking to invest any money, the time to invest is now, and the things you should be investing in are like data farms, because all that's going to happen is that server space is just going to be such a huge thing in the future, that like all those companies that are out in the Nevada desert just building, you know, data farms are going to be worth billions, you know, because like that's where everything's going to ultimately end up. It's scary, but they just keep getting bigger. And I mean, that's what and all this stuff, by the way, Nick, has happened in our lifetime since like the 70s and 80s, right? Imagine like what our kids are going to do in the next 70 odd years. Like where's it going to be in 70 years time? I mean, I'll just be a dust speck. I'll exist as an AI that you just load up and ask a question, and I'll cut into an amazing anecdote about when I was a kid or something. You know, the granddad's in the telly, as it will be you know, that's where we're ending up. But I wonder what, you know, there are jobs that we don't even know, like, you know, and certainly in the creative industry, how that's going to develop to evolve and include all of this stuff and still stay pure to itself. It's so interesting to me, you know.
I kind of like that idea of you shuffle off the mortal coil and into your own AI being. You know,
But then there's a weird thing. Do you think we'll reach that point of our life where, this is getting deep now, where it's like a Black Mirror episode where you're recorded, right? But suddenly you're actually trapped inside a computer. You're conscious. You're like, oh, I thought I died, but no. Now I'm looking out of a laptop screen.
Do I get lots of digestive biscuits?
Digital ones. They fit, but only when you're good. Your grandkids will feed you only when you're good. Yeah.
I don't think I'm interested. I was.
I'll just say this now. Just delete me. Put me in a box and burn me, and delete my memory. Have a few photos going around, but that's it. I don't need to be a little AI in a box. I think that's fine. I don't want to be like on, you know, Milo's glasses in 50 years. Dad, what do you think of this? Beep, beep, you know, like all that stuff. I'm not ready for that.
Yeah. That is quite a thought, isn't it? Is that where it's going? Yeah.
I think that's probably exactly where it's going. Yeah. We're all going to be living in data farms together. You will have a great life if you can imagine, like you could kind of like create your own universe, live on forever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things that I wouldn't like to take with me into, the eternal afterlife.
Yeah.
Returns, quarterly taxes.
Don't have to worry about that stuff. You won't worry about
that'd be wicked. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And the day that the data center runs out of power and they flick the switch, you won't even realize what's happened. It'll be so quick.
Oh, fair play. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
And then at some point, someone will find a way to turn them back on, and you'll just come back to life. But it'll be like 40 million years in the future. You'll be in a museum somewhere.
My God.
And that's what we've all got to look forward to, I think.
Do you know what? That is a terrifying thought, isn't it? Is that at some point in the future there'll be like some sort of AI museum, the V and AI, and then
nice. I like that. Yeah, I like that.
Humans in it, like that they, taxidermy, like that fella who did the Skinworks or Bodyworks.
Yeah. The Bodyworks thing. Yeah.
That's just the museum of the future. And AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember when they were sentient beings, and all that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. God, so crazy. That's what we've got to look forward to. So I'm not sure death is the end. I think it's just the beginning. Your photography, our creative work will continue throughout the cosmos forevermore.
Oh my God!
What a scary thought that is.
That is incredible, isn't it? What a thought! I'll be out there in 40,000 years doing headshots of people on 18%.
Yeah, exactly.
Still banging on that.
Occasionally popping up on LinkedIn like a little kind of word paperclip going, actually, grey is great.
Yeah. And a paperclip of reading my, 1,742nd edition of.
Yeah. That just comes through constantly now. You'll just keep getting them through the door. Once you sign up to our special subscription service, it's a book for life. Yeah, it's a book for life, that one. Good stuff.
Now you've got a very accurate drawing of my ex-girlfriend on there, look, mate.
Well, she posed for it. Yeah. That's when she found out. That's when she found out that it was over. She was sort of just screaming into the void.
And that was my blood. Yeah.
All this is going to be in the AI museum, by the way.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Anyone who's listening.
Somebody's going to be typing in, "How do I break up with my boyfriend?" And that picture appears. With
click on Nick Morrish's AI to find out more. Then you'll just be online. Yeah. I like that.
Excellent.
There you go.
Oh, I love it. No, it's good. So,
well, mate, I'm going to have to call it a day because my boy's going to be back from school in a minute. So I need to because he walks home by himself now on a Wednesday.
No.
He's and secondary school in September. So like we're all we're waiting to hear. I think it's March we find out which school he's going to. So all the ones around here are really good. We're lucky that we've got some choices, but he's got certain ones that his mates are going to that he wants to go to.
Oh, good luck with that, mate. Well, I hope that's
we get on.
Then, obviously.
We'll catch up. Yeah, for sure.
January 27 tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's book it in now. But I think generally 2025 was kind of a bit of a mixed bag. What I remember of it.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. I think there was some good, there was some bad. 2026 can only get better.
Well, what are your just to kind of wrap things up? Now we've been. What things have you got lined up this year that you're looking forward to? You're saying about some competitions that you're entering into.
Competitions, getting back to film photography. I think that's I started in. I'm old enough for that, to remember film photography and doing it and stuff. So I'm going to get back into that. So I've already shot a roll of film this year, which I'm going to share the pictures on. soon, although it is more expensive than it was in our day shooting film.
Well, I was going to say that, like, I mean, back in the day, I can remember, because my dad used to do wedding photography for years. So, like, we'd be forever dropping off film and picking film up from Jessop's. You know, you drop them off, and then 5 or 6, 7 days later, you go and pick them up. And it was the same at college as well. Like, before digital cameras, you know, it was like everybody would get their, you know, everyone had their little Olympus cameras and doing stuff, and that, you know, it's good. It was good times, actually. Shooting on film is, you can do some really creative stuff with it, you know. But it was cheap. Like, you would it would be like £3 to get 36 pictures developed, and then they give you a free film so that you carried on going back, you know.
It's not like that anymore.
No. I can remember, actually, I had a 38mm camera for like my birthday in my 20s, and we managed to get some film for it, and I shot some film. So, like, there's a whole load of like footage of like sort of my family and stuff from around that time. And then I think we found one place that could develop it, and it was so expensive that I just sort of quietly put it in a box and put it in the loft. It's just like, because nobody could develop it anymore. It's like, you know, it's not because, you know, because technology's moved on. Like it becomes so specialized that if people do it, it's such a premium, you know. Even now, like transferring video to CDs, bearing in mind, like, no one watches DVDs anymore or whatever, but getting that transition or getting it onto a USB stick, it costs an absolute fortune.
Oh, it's crazy.
So then I bought all the cables and stuff because I thought I'll just do it myself. And then I realized that, like, to buy a new VHS player is like buying a new car. Like, they don't exist, and the ones you find are so, like, go on eBay, they're like 500 or 600 quid, some of them now.
Really?
And like before, I'm like, for an old crappy Hitachi like video that you could have got for 30 quid like 10 years ago, whatever, now they're just like, because nobody, they just, it's a defunct technology that, like, you know, the skips in our local refuse centre were full of them for years and years. And then the minute I think, oh, perhaps I'll just do the transfer myself, it's like, I don't think you will. It's so expensive, but
no. So that's that, and just better balance between my own time and work time, and then I'm going to be happier this year. I think that's my thing. I'm not going to let things get to me. So, you know, that means not listening to the news as much.
That's something I'd like to stay ahead of events and see what's going on. But like I said at the start, it's like, it can get a bit overwhelming when there's just so much negativity, and, like, you know, it's scary.
But how about you, dude? You know, what are you?
Work as ever is it's busy. There's lots of stuff coming up, which is great. That's a thing that just exists. I just work for it now. You know, I get emails that just say do this, and I do it, and then that's it. I don't. You know, I'm at that stage, and especially like post-COVID and what have you. Like, things have got to the point where everything's sort of nicely balanced. The work's sort of regular, and I can press the accelerator a little bit if I want to have a bit more income or get involved with different bigger projects, which is good. Just spending time with the family is good. You know, they're all healthy and young, and you know, they're at that age now where you know, they're sort of interested in things, and you can sort of, they don't need 100% attention all the time, and you can do fun stuff together, and, you know, there's a really good balance going on, so that's good. And then I've got a whole load of book stuff happening this year, so lots of illustration. I'm doing some writing, you know, much to the detriment of the writing world. I will be putting some work out, so can't wait to do all of that. And and just a busy year. I'm looking forward to it, but like yourself, gonna try and find a little small amount of time to actually have to just sit down for a minute and say, should we just have a rest? Just for an hour, you know, try and find some me time, you know.
Do you know what, I did this the other day? I was up in London. I actually was meant to be up for a client, but the client cancelled, and I already had my tickets, and I was like, oh, do you know what, I'm just going to go up anyway and just have a day to myself, whatever. And I mooched around, and I went up to the National Portrait Gallery, and it was such a lovely day. I'm actually planning 1 1/4 now, so I'm going to do one.
You should definitely do it.
And you know, and a few other people, and try and catch up with some folk and stuff, you know, because I think that's what, when you're working for yourself, you can get into that bubble, and you're just like, oh, you know, blah, 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 and you sort of forget.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do more of that, and yeah, I can't wait, mate. Can't wait.
Yeah. That's and also it's hard, but you do have to carve that time out, because if you don't, it's very easy to put that off, right? I mean, even just trying to have a conversation with you for an hour and a half on Teams, we moved it once already this year, and like we planned it weeks before. It's there's always stuff coming up, but when you're going to do something, you've got to like make sure you find the time to put it in the diary, and don't change it, you know, or certainly make sure if you do move it, make sure you do it, you know, because it is important, you know. There's a guy who runs a dance center, who's just about to move into this great big studio, which is quite close to our house. But as part of that studio, there's a whole network of rooms upstairs that he's kind of renting out and doing different stuff with. Anyway, I get on really well with him, and he's essentially given me one of the rooms so that I can go and paint in it. Oh, so wicked. I'm thinking about setting it up as an environment where there's no screens, there's no technology, no work related stuff, like, you know, and just having like paints and canvas, and I'm going old school. You're going back to film, I'm going back to canvas. So you know, I actually can't wait to get that up and running, because and also he's a really lovely guy. He's just like I tried to give him some money and say, look, I'll pay like a monthly thing and he's just like, no, just come. He's trying to create this kind of community hub and whatever, and he's got the space, so he's just said, yeah, if you want to come and do that, you can come anytime. So I'm gonna, like yourself, I'm gonna make sure at least once a month I go and do a day where it's just like me painting myself and everything else, and just kind of, you know, something you can't really do at home. Also you can't do with a group of people. It's quite a sort of an isolating kind of thing, but it's also the only way you can get into that free flow of that flow state or whatever, you know. So like I'm looking forward to doing that. It all sounds very wanky, and I'm sure whatever I produce would be a load of old crap, but I'll have a brilliant time doing it, and that is the main thing.
No, 100%, mate. Oh, wicked. Well, no. Well, on that note, I better let you get away, because yes, but no, it's been good to catch up, dude.
And, always, mate. Always. Yeah. I think this year's going to be good, and I'm looking forward to it. I like having our little yearly roundups. It's nice. It's nice. Yeah. I think we're right about AI, you know. I think we've hit it on the nose, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I've just thought of a name for your AI. JI.
JI. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I am a JI. He's not here right now. I'm a pre-programmed just to wrap up our story to come full circle. I am an AI that does all of Jay's meetings.
That's fantastic. Well, it's been good fun. Thank you, Mr. AI.
Actually, that'll exist as well. If I could have an AI of myself that just that did all the meetings.
God, yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
And then I just got like the cliff notes of what we talked about and the things I needed to.
See,
I mean,
that's good AI.
Yeah, that is good AI. Good AI. Yeah.
That's good AI.
Yeah. But that would be great, because when you're having a meeting in Teams, you've got all the things. It's like, you know, Susan couldn't make the meeting, but Susan's AI is here.
Yeah, and frankly, it's more helpful than Susan.
Yeah. And when Susan eventually gets an email of the breakdown of what they discussed, it appears Susan resigned or volunteered for a load of stuff that she doesn't want to do. Yeah. We got a better Susan. Susan 2.0 has taken her job. She's been replaced by her own AI. Yeah, mate, we've got to start writing some of this stuff down, mate.
Yeah, mate. Well, I look forward to it, man.
Lovely, man. All right, you take care, and I'll speak to you soon, mate. It's good to catch up.
Cheers, man. See you later.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye.